you want to first begin by figuring out the shape of your eye, where it fits in the socket. So to do that, I'm just going to get a rough idea of how big I want to go. I suggest starting first with pencil, just like we did our still life drawings. It'll make it a lot easier overall compared to just going headstrong into your actual drawing with charcoal. So this here is the actual shape of the socket, where the pupil lies, where the actual eyeball will be. So I'm going to go on the outside quickly, get the concept of an arch, because as you know, when you are looking at an eye, you have your eyelid and it curls back and it creates this little dark line speck towards the top. You also get something towards the bottom. So I went ahead and drew in the crease you'll see in the top. Now for me, I want to add just a little bit more emotion to it, so I'm drawing this little drop, almost like a tear. And then I'm not going to draw any kind of harsh line on the bottom set of the eyelid, because for there it's a little bit more of a gradual, you see it more fading than anything, compared to up top where it actually kind of goes into the socket just a tad bit. So now let's get into the actual eye itself. For here, most of it's going to be that pure white area. But if you look closely, you do see that little bit of a sometimes red or sometimes a little bit of some kind of like flesh going on the side. So that's what I just drew right here to get the concept of that. And it'll make a lot more sense as we keep going with it. Also, if you look, sometimes, you'll see the eye straight on. You'll see the full bit in the center, the actual iris. But most of the time, like in this case, my eyelid is a tad bit closed, just a little bit, which covers up part of the eyelid, just a tad. So I'm not going to see all of it in the top. It's actually going to come below it. So like that, where part of it's covered up. From here, then I know I do have like a dark speck. We all do, that dark speck in the center. But also, if you look, go online, find reference images of eyes, usually there's the glisten, the shine. So I want to get that aspect in as well. And because of the charcoal and how hard it is to erase into that pristine white that I really want, I'm going to actually block out that first. And then I'm making the dark speck, the dark iris around it. And then I'm going to put another area over here that I'm going to block as well. I might be using it more as reflective. It also could be more of the dark shadow area on it because of the way your eye is curved. But I just want to get that section in there too, for what I'm going to be doing in a little bit when I start adding in value. Now what I did just now, I need you to take your time with it. There's some of it. I can easily now go back, clean it up, get rid of some of these lines that I don't need, that are a little looser. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to get your idea first in pencil, go back and erase where you need it, then go in with charcoal, do some more erasing, then go back in, like I know I need this to be a bit darker, on this end. So I'm going to go in and actually make it a bit darker, more consistent even. And I'm going in here as well, just darkening it up a little bit because I know this area is going to be a bit darker than when I have it. So I just want to get that started. Okay. Now that I got that the way I want it, which again for you, this may take a good 10 minutes of just getting this, and that's fine. And I already noticed, like, compared to my hand, I'm going big. I need you to go about this big as well when you're working on this. Now I'm going to come in here, play with the actual eye, play with the iris some. We already know this is the darkest spot, the pupil of the actual eye. So I'm going to come in here first and I'm going to darken it up. And note, I am still taking notes of the highlights that are already pre-drawn in there where they are. So I'm not going into them. I'm coming around it just to get as dark as I want it. From there, I know up here, it's going to be a little darker because of the shadow that's going on with the lid. It's a little darker at the top. You get the reflectiveness. It's going to be more around here in this section. So up here, I'm going to come in. Just going to darken it up some. And then if you also look at the iris, even down in this section around, you get your solid color and it's lighter in this towards the center where the black is, and on the edges a little darker. And you'll especially notice this more if you start looking at black and white photographs of eyes, which is what I want to recommend you doing when you're looking up references, just to get different ideas of what they look like. Is look at black and white. Since that's what we're working with is more the charcoal anyways, that will help out tremendously. Now that I got that taken care of, my dark border, I also need to make note of the fact that if you look, you do get the dark variations all throughout as well. So from here, I'm going to come in, make some of these darker sections a little bit more known. My pencil's already getting a little so I went ahead and just grabbed me another one. Okay. Now I'm going to go in with my finger and actually start blending this together. So the paper I'm using is mixed media paper. So it has a little bit more of a tooth to it, so it's catching the charcoal better. And I actually got into my highlight, which I wasn't trying to, but I did. So I'm going to go in there quickly, take that back out while it's still thin and easy. Now what I'm doing is I'm coming into some areas, I'm lightening it up, just erasing a little bit. I'm using this also as a way of blending some of it together. It's just another way of doing it. Then I'm going to go back with my charcoal pencil again. I'm going to make some darker lines because I need some more of these. And then up here, I am actually going to go ahead and just cover this in more pure dark. It's more of a shadow area right here. It already just sets a different tone for the eye altogether. Darkening it up a little bit more. Blending that. And notice what I'm doing right over here. Darkening up an area and then I'm coming back and lightening above it. It's another highlight per se. It's just in a different way, different form. It's not as stark and precise as these will be. It's a little bit more subtle. And like I said before, you're going to constantly keep working on this. Go back, redraw some, blend, erase, add more, just to get your variations. Some of it you'll like, some of it you'll be like, ooh, nope, needs a little bit more love. We're not making happy trees, but we can at least make it look nice still. Because we want this to be as realistic as possible. And you can use your eraser that I gave you that you're supposed to put on like the end of your charcoal pencil to get these fine points. I have a kneaded eraser, which I know some of you have, some may not. For me, it's just a little easier to work with. I'm gonna come here and try to find the shape just a tad bit better. And as you can see, again, like I'm constantly going back. I'm adding more of these darker lines. Going back now, and I'm adding some of these wider spots. Erasing some of the dark lines I just did, but at the same time, they're still partially there. They're just not as prominent. They're a lot more subtle. Okay. Now taking a break from the center portion of the eye, I'm going to move over here. I'm actually going to get the shadow effect we have going on right here in this corner of the pupil. Not as strong overall. It's still there. It's not as strong, and it fades very much more into the lights. Just like that. I'm going to come in here. The border I did at the bottom, blend it in so it feels more natural there. Then the same thing over here. Darkening up this section. Stops about here. And notice I'm not while I'm doing this, I have yet to actually try to clean my fingers, and I really don't want to at the moment because the charcoal on my fingers is helping even more with the blending, and it's just adding to it. It's just working alongside it. The charcoal that's on the paper. So now I'm going in and just defining this line a little bit better. I'm going to come in, clean it up. I'm actually using the white of the paper to help with the eye itself. To get more of that pure white that we normally think of when we think of an eye. I come blend the outside of this in with the paper. Then I'm going to come back, cleaning it up. Okay. So now I definitely need to sharpen my pencil. And this should take you, in total, I would say, a good 30 minutes of just working with it to get to this point. If you are really, truly taking your time. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in up here and actually start blending this in a little bit. But first I want to darken up here and here just a little bit more. as this is the side of the eyebrow, so I want it darker than the top. I'm lightly going in, adding some value underneath, just because I feel like it needs some here. Okay. Now I want to come lightly erase some of this dark line up top. So it's just a little bit faded more since it is the top section of it. Still there, we just don't see it as much. From here, I'm going to start adding in some eyelashes. One thing I want you to go ahead and start noticing, they're curved. Your eyelashes, they are curved, not fully straight. So on the left side, they're curved to the left. Right side, they're curved to the right. This part you definitely want to be working with more fine tip, where you get to be a little bit more like this one right here, where I'm going to have to go back now and clean up because I got it a little too thick. So think fine tip of various sizes, some next to each other, almost like they're overlapping, some. They can be in a cluster even. Constantly at this point, we're going to have to sharpen my charcoal pencil to be able to manage. Oh, not that sharpen. Don't need to break. But you're constantly wanting to sharpen through a pencil. Even down here, when you get to these, even more curved. Because these we fade with the actual eyelid. Down here we see them more. So they do get to be a little bit more curved like this. And here I'm actually going to get a mix of them intertwining some. Just to make it look a little bit more natural. And like this, it's a little irregular. Just to get the variations, get the overlapping. I want to do some over here. Not as many because of this section, the way it is, so we're just going to get definitely smaller, definitely less. Okay. Now I'm just going to go in here, blend out a little bit of this just to help with the value difference we see. Can come in, define some of these more, darkening up this area even. And this can all be, again, clean up even more the more time you spend on it. If you take your time, this can turn out very beautifully. Cleaning this up, making it look a tad bit more natural, not as outline. And then you're probably wondering about this, since I really haven't touched on it. Just coming in here, blending it in, getting a little darker around the edge. It's actually going to make it a little harder to see some of the eyelashes at first. And I might end up having to redraw them, in all honesty, some. Because what I'm now going to do is I want to come in, I want to lighten it up. create this kind of like a drop. Like it's the beginning of a teardrop. Hasn't fully formed, but it's in the process of forming fully. And we're going to come in here, add some thin light areas. The concept of highlights, essentially. And the concept of shadows. Because like I said, towards the beginning when I was drawing this out, the reason I didn't add in these dark lines that I did up here down here is because it's a lot more of a gradual fade like this. And there we go, a finished die. And this took me in total 35 minutes. I want you guys to work slower than I did. What took me this 35 minutes, this should take you hour and a half to get it down, because I want you to work slow. I want you to be patient. I want you to take your time. I don't want it rushed.